Today's video is sponsored by our very own spring store, but more about that later.
Hi everybody and welcome to the deep dive. In previous videos we've spoken about why you should dive with the backplate and harness system and some of the basics, differences between types of plates and different types of wings, and probably harnesses too. We've probably done a video of that. If we haven't, I'll draw up a video for you for that. But I remember when I very first got into backplate and wings, and it all just comes in bits with a post-it note saying some assembly required. Today you can find some complete setups where they're all assembled from A to B. All you need to do is just adjust it to your shape and body size, but you don't have full control over every single part that comes with that kit, which is what some divers want. They want to be able to pick every single individual piece. Complete sets are a great starting point because you know that everything you need should be included in that kit, and you know everything should match up and line up as well. Not everything always lines up if you start to mix and match different brands, so do be careful if you're trying that. In this video, I'm mainly going to be focusing on single piece harness because they're probably the most complicated, especially if you've never done one before, but some of the concepts in this video will help for other types of harnesses, and the fancy ones, they usually come with instructions now anyway. Now, there's no great order like 1, 2, 3 to show you. I kind of have to show you all of it at the same time, so I'm going to be kind of bouncing backwards and forwards, explaining some things that will happen midway through the next section. It'll make sense, but basically watch through the entire video and then start your build. It's not really something that you can do whilst you're watching the video because I am going to be bouncing backwards and forwards. The sections, however, they will be separated down in the timeline thanks to Sean, so you can jump backwards and forwards if you need to. It makes it a little bit easier for you. But yeah, let's take a look at how to build a backplate system. So if you're building a backplate system for back mounts, either singles or twins, the only thing that really needs to change is the wing and the cylinder attachment points. You can usually use the same backplate and harness for both singles and twins. The only thing that might need to change in the harness is if you're diving in different thickness suits. If it's a single piece harness, then you'll just need to adjust that to dive in a dry suit and then back down to a rash vest because of that extra exposure protection. To be honest, it's usually easier just to have two, one for each. If you are diving in really cold waters and then really warm waters, it's almost easier just to have two, to be honest. But adjustable harnesses, they do allow for more flexibility, like a recreational BCD, if that's what you need. So that's definitely an option as well. If you are building a harness from scratch, then it is actually pretty easy. It just kind of looks complicated when you first empty all the contents out onto a workbench. If you're going for a padded adjustable harness, then you should have everything that you need in the kit, because they all come in a kit. But if you're building a single piece harness from scratch, then the first thing that you'll need is some 2-inch webbing. Somewhere between 3 and 4 meters long, depending on your body size and the bulk of the exposure protection that you're going to be wearing, your wetsuit or your dry suit. But it's better to have too much than not enough. You're going to be cutting off any excess anyway, and webbing isn't particularly expensive, so about 4 meters, 4.5 maybe at a push. Try to find fairly stiff webbing. The really soft stuff that you get on crotch straps and the adjustable sections on recreational BCDs, that's way too loose. You're going to need to find the quite stiff stuff, and it's usually marked up as harness webbing. After that, a crotch strap is a nice idea. Basically keeps the BCD in position no matter where you are in the water. This is where you can afford to use much thinner, softer webbing because, you know, and it's often best just to buy a crotch strap because they'll often have a loop and a D-ring physically stitched into it. If you're handy with a sewing needle or a sewing machine, then great, go nuts. Do you, but I'm not, so it's just easier to get one that's already been specifically made up for you, especially if you're diving an X-deep backplate because they often allow a V-shaped crotch strap. I don't know how to make that, so it's better if they make it and I just buy it. As far as hardware, you're going to need one quick release waist buckle for the waistband, 3 straight D-rings. You can go for aluminium or stainless steel. You can even get titanium ones nowadays, but go for whatever suits you. It's mainly down to the weight. They're all typically as strong as they need to be. Including the one that's sort of fitted onto the crotch strap, you should need 3 in total. That's the one included onto the front of the crotch strap as well. 2 pre-bent D-rings where it's kind of bent out a little bit, 1 for each shoulder. 7 tri-gliders. Tri-gliders work with the D-rings to hold them in one spot. I've never found a huge difference between the serrated ones and the straight ones. I just use straight ones just because that's typically what comes with the kits that I've used before. And they're also quite handy to hold your shoulder straps in place at the bottom, and also create a second loop on the crotch strap as well. A loop of bungee is quite nice, about 30 centimeters long, that's about 12 inches. That's handy to keep your inflator in place, normally about 4 mil thick, maybe 5 mil, depending on how chunky you want it to be. You basically just tie 2 knots over one another and then just use a tri-glider like a D-ring to hold that in position on your shoulder strap. A bunch of sections of inner tube are good to help keep accessories in place and extra webbing from kind of flapping around. Normally 1 for each shoulder, 1 for your waistband, probably 1 for your crotch strap as well. Those are kind of the basics. You can swap out some of those for alternatives. You can find low profile D-rings as well as sliding D-rings, as well as mounting plates to fit certain accessories, but that's really up to you. Those are the main basics. Personally, I like to add a little bit of padding to the shoulder straps as well, just some thin sections of neoprene, especially if you're diving a lot or in a sort of thin suits, because the webbing, if it's just bare webbing over your shoulders, it can rub either your neck or your suit. Personally, I've never found a problem with bare metal backplates on my back, even in just a rash vest. It's never been a big problem for me, so you can get padding for that. But in the water, it isn't sort of bearing down and that metal is being pushed down into your back. If anything, the buoyancy of your wing is literally holding you up. So I don't use padding on the plate itself. You can if you want, but it is not a huge game changer for me. Once you get the hang of fitting D-rings, it is quite easy. It's just easy to get kind of turned around of which is the inside, which is the outside. If you are finding it tricky, a clever trick is just to draw a line down the outside, down the middle of the webbing in chalk. It'll wash off really easily on your first dive, but you can kind of keep on top of which is the inside and which is the outside. So the first thing is that you thread on is the tri-glider. There will be 2 slots, and you want the biggest section of the tri-glider to be on the inside of the webbing. Get that to roughly where you want the D-ring to be, and then thread the flat side of the D-ring on the inside of the webbing to meet that glider. Then when the D-ring is in that right spot, thread the webbing through that second slot of the glider so it traps the D-ring in place. Where to fit the D-rings? So once you've assembled your harness, again, this is where I'm jumping backwards and forwards. I'm kind of jumping right to the end. I'll show you how to do that in the next section, but you basically put it on, and your shoulder D-rings should be around here. If you shut your eyes and kind of touch your shoulder strap, you kind of want it where your D-ring, that's kind of where you want that D-ring to be, so that you'll hit it instinctively without having to look down and try and find it. So the one on your waistband should be on your left for your gauges, because your gauges should come around on your left hand side, and it should be straight down your side. Not too far to the front, not too far to the back, but kind of straight down your side, again when it's fully assembled. If you want, use a piece of chalk to mark that location sort of on your shoulder strap and the waistband whilst you're wearing it. That way, when you then take it off, you can then move it to the right place and you can remember exactly where it is instead of trying to like hold on to it and trying to remember. If you're diving with a single harness, which is just made from a single piece of 2-inch wide webbing, then you start smack dab in the middle of that. A lot of webbing kits that a manufacturer has made will have a grommet just punched into the middle of the webbing somewhere. That should line up with one of the holes in your backplate at the top. So hold it flat against one of those holes and then thread one side of the webbing through the diagonal slot, and then you can basically thread the other side through the other diagonal slot and just make sure that that hole is perfectly lined up through the center. Or a lot of the time I'll get an old sort of nut and bolt, just put it through there just as a temporary sort of holder, just to make sure it holds in the right position and doesn't kind of skew off to one side. Pull the webbing back up through one of the flat slots at the top, and now you've basically made your left and your right shoulder straps. The right strap is easy, you just need to fit one D-ring so it sticks out from the webbing at the bottom. The left strap, fit a tri-glider with the bungee loop for your inflator hose, and then the other bent D-ring. One section of inner tube for each shoulder underneath each D-ring, and that's kind of your shoulder straps. Move it down and thread to the bottom of your backplate, and the straps are going to thread through the inner diagonal slot. The outside of these straps should start to face outside, so it goes outside of your shoulders and then towards the outside of your waist. Before you thread them back through the next slot, fit a tri-glider. That just helps to hold it in position so your shoulder strap doesn't kind of pull loose over time. The left waistband, you fit your straight D-ring to it, and then a section of inner tube before you fit your quick release buckle. Quick release buckles, they're all slightly different in how you thread them, but you basically want the excess strap, the end of it, to double back on the inside and then cut away any excess. But before you do cut anything off, measure twice, cut once, and melt that end so that it doesn't fray. Same with the right hand waistband, kind of put it on, measure how much you want and sort of how much of that waistband that you need. You want enough to be able to grab hold of it to get you out of it, but not too much that it's just kind of flapping around and being annoying. So cut off the excess and then seal that edge as well. A lot of people, they like to make that really nice kind of crescent curve or just a diagonal cut, just so it makes it a little bit easier to thread through that quick release buckle. The crotch strap, thread a section of inner tube and then your D-ring a fair way down onto that crotch strap first. Hook that loop over the waistband when you're putting it on so that the fixed D-ring is facing the front, and thread the other end through the bottom slot of the backplate. And when you put it on, get a feel for kind of how tight you like it between your legs, and then just below where the crotch strap attaches to your backplate, that's kind of where your remaining D-ring goes. The inner webbing lets you thread, the thinner webbing lets you thread both sections through that tri-glider to create a loop and then lock it down sort of where that D-ring in the small of your back is located. And you're pretty much done. Once it's fully assembled, now you have the great fun to adjust it and make it your own. Shoulder straps should be tight enough that you can get a closed fist underneath them comfortably, and obviously you need to be able to get in and out from it. Without any adjustment, this isn't graceful, I promise you. That doesn't mean that you've screwed up in any way. They are tricky to get in and out of, but if it feels comfortable when it's on and you can physically wriggle out of it, then that's about right. Adjust the shoulder straps first, get them perfect, and then you can find the right spots for the D-rings on your shoulder and waist. If you adjust your D-rings first, and then you need to adjust the size of your shoulder straps and your waistband, then you're just gonna have to do those D-rings all over again. So get your straps done perfectly, and then think about D-ring placement. Ideally, when it's on and everything is done up, you should be able to touch the top of your backplate in the small of your back. With some of the new funky designs that are coming out, this rule isn't 100% anymore, but for most traditional backplate designs, you should be able to touch the top without kind of stretching too much to reach for it. If you can't quite reach the that backplate, the shoulder straps might not be quite tight enough, because that will help to sort of pull up that backplate. Either that or your crotch strap is just too tight and it's physically pulling it down. Once you got it just about how you like it, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, try it a whole bunch of times. Try it on with the wetsuit or the dry suit that you're gonna be diving it in, because it's important to make sure that that fits properly. Once you are 100% sure that everything is in the right place and the straps are the right length, then and only then think about cutting that excess webbing off, because that's the last thing that you need to do, because you can't uncut it. You can't make it any longer once you've cut it. So make sure that it's the right length and make sure that you've really tried it on 100 different times, then you know it's perfect. So hopefully that helped. Building a backplate and wing system may feel daunting at first, but if you can get this part down, then you can build anything really. Not anything, but any sort of harness setup. If anything, building something like this is actually far easier than some of the recreational BCDs I've had to put together in my time. Some of those are just completely out there, whereas this is actually relatively straightforward, and they are fully customizable as well to your shape and size and exactly where you want those D-rings. But if you do come across any complications that you just can't work out, then just let us know down in the comments and we'll do our best to help you out. If you do need any scuba diving equipment or bits of equipment for your backplate and wing setup, then don't forget to check out simplyscuba.com. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving. Calling all scuba divers, do you want to stand out from the non-diving crowd? Do you want people to know that you are a scuba diver? Well then, our very own Spring store will help you out. We stock tees, stickers, hoodies, phone cases, even mugs that all have a scuba diving theme to them. From our super popular emotional bolt snap tee, cave shark stickers, and our Scuba Dude hoodie, we have something for everybody, and our range is becoming more eco-friendly every single month thanks to Spring's eco-friendly range. Each order is printed fresh, which means less waste, less plastic, and it's better for the environment. And it also helps to battle clothing waste as well. To view our full range, just click on the link pinned in the comments. And hey, why not treat yourself to 10% off of your total order with the discount code DSN10. Okay, back to the video.